Happy Devil's Thursday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 257, titled, What Do the Devils Do Now? What the Devils Should Do Now. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano. Going live the day after. That's all I have to say. Nick, I am just so depressed right now. It's tough. It's tough putting the microphone on and streaming because I'm depressed.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Sam. I'm going to make you more sad.
Oh, thanks.
3 games in a row, the Devils have blown a lead twice in the third period. If they win all 3 of those games, they're tied for a playoff spot right now. Tied!
Would they be tied?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I'm looking at it. They have 76 points. If they won those 3 games, they'd have 82. Washington would be ahead on points percentage, right? Because they have an extra game. But based on points, they'd be tied.
Now, did I see a statistic somewhere a few games ago that they're 17-1-1 leading in the third? I thought I saw a statistic from Bill Spalding on MSG Networks.
Here's what you got to read Pucks and Pitchforks, Sam, because I addressed this.
Okay. Under
Lindy Ruff, the team was one of the best teams of the league. Now, they had 5. I don't know where Bill Spalding got his number from, but going into the Rangers game, so before last night, the Devils had 6 third period blown losses, where they went into the third period with the lead and they blew the game. I believe they had only 3 under Ruff. And then in the past, basically a month, they've had 3 more. I guess last night makes 4, right? Am I doing my math right?
Yeah.
In 1 month, Travis Green has blown more leads in the third period than Lindy Ruff has done all year. Now, Lindy Ruff, I had my issues with a lot of what he's done. But, and I think this started the end of the Ruff tenure. I think that Ducks game and that Kings game right before he lost his job just showed a team that was apoplectic to what was happening around them and just kind of, I don't want to use the word care because that's beyond my scope to know. I don't know what's going on in this team's head, but I know that this team turtles. I know that the second it starts to go bad, whether you're leading or when you're winning or losing, it's a snowball effect every single time. It's 2 goals in a minute. It's 3 goals in 5 minutes. It's 4 or 5 goals allowed in the third period when you're up by 2 going into it. It's these types of stats. And, I was talking to a friend of the podcast, CJ Turturro, on Twitter, because he said that, I said it's been happening all season long. And I was kind of speaking in a reactionary way, but I just meant this type of thing is happening all season long. But he was correct to say they actually it hasn't been happening all season long. They used to be one of the best when holding a lead. But the other side of that, Sam, is they never have the lead. They've given up the first goal. What is it? They've played 76 games. Have they given up the first goal 51 times? 52 times?
I think it's actually more.
Okay. So, if they do it for the rest of the season, they break the record. I know that for a fact. And here's the deal is that it's just a team that, you think about what this team looks like in the second period. Going into the intermission down 2-0, you just had the line brawl, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you just had the line brawl. You have, and the Rangers just came and put their foot on their throat after the line brawl. The Devils only had 4 shots in the first period, and they come out and they score 3 goals in the second period on Igor Shesterkin. Right? They get all the momentum, and then they go into the second intermission. And I don't know what happens. They went from having the secret stuff to maybe Bugs Bunny got traded to the Rangers in the intermission. You know what I mean? So it's just. It's a team that's just I mean, it's laughable at this point. Like, what are you going to do as a Devils fan? Like, and then they bench Holtz for 2 games in a row, even with they had 8 people on the bench, and they benched Holtz, stapled him to the bench when he's not playing that badly. Like, everything I'm looking at does not look that bad. You can't bench a guy for making one mistake. It's a hockey game. Jack Hughes makes more mistakes than anybody, but he makes up for them with great plays. Like, I've seen Alexander Holtz. His positioning is not always great, but he's winning board battles more than half the guys on the team that I'm watching. He's really putting the effort there, and he's putting a defensive effort. He's trying to get to the board, to those board to the puck. I think the thing that got him benched was that he flipped the puck up to Jack Hughes, and Jack Hughes tried to race up. There was just a slight miscommunication, and Jack Hughes was not in position to get the pass, and I think it led to a goal. But I blame Hughes as much as Holtz on that. So we're making these same decisions that put the Devils where they were in the first place, but at the same time, you have no. What's the word I want to use here? There's just a certain vibe that this team doesn't have. You remember last year's team where they had more comebacks than anybody in the league?
Mm-hmm.
This is a different team, which is why, Sam, I don't even care about goalie next year. You got to get the coach right because this team is broken mentally. This team is not the same mentally. This is not the team with the chip on the shoulder. This is a team that everybody in the offseason talked up. And we were worried about this. We talked about this in September, that there's a possible. I'm going to stop hitting my table because I'm shaking the camera. I think I'm giving you a heart attack right now. This is something we talked about. We said, should we be worried about the hype train? And I was wrong about so much last offseason. I was wrong about the goaltender situation. I was wrong about Luke Hughes. I was wrong about the hype train and it being too much because it seemed like this team just always assumed they would turn it on and be fine. From the top down, from Tom Fitzgerald down, from even maybe from Josh Harris down because...
No. It is Josh Harris and David Blitzer. I've been saying it all along.
But the reason why I say it might not be them is because I don't even know if they're paying attention. They're trying to buy the Washington football team, during this process. And Blitzer,
that is the problem. They're not paying attention.
But then I can't. It's not that I can't hold them accountable. It's that I can't even put the blame on them because they have nothing to do with this, and they should, but they don't. And I kind of see that happening a lot.
I
look at the Yankees.
Completely disagree with you. Joshua Harris and David Blitzer has a lot to do with this. Okay? And it's the same thing that's happening with the New York Mets. It's 100% analytics. Hedge fund guys love their analytics. They love their data. And it's so focused on that. And, it's nauseating. I mean, that's part of the problem. The other thing, too, is people blaming Lindy. Was Lindy really the problem? You're having worse problems with a different coach.
Lindy was a problem.
He was a problem. But everybody blamed everything on Lindy. I think Lindy, to tell you the truth, you mentioned that Alexander. Oh, come on. Do you read Twitter? I mean, everybody blames
First
Lindy.
of all, Twitter is not. We should not take our opinions on Twitter. But I think that a lot of people blame the goalies. There's a lot of people I mentioned saying, see, Lindy was right. Like a lot of people saying that. And, I'll let you get to your point, but I do think a lot of people blame the defense and the goalies. And I've seen more people blame Fitz over the last 3 months than blame Lindy. And maybe that's part that he didn't fire Lindy in a timely manner, whatever that means. But I've said it before. I think Fitz was waiting for somebody to give him a reasonable price for a goalie, and it never happened. And he wanted to give Lindy Ruff a goalie because I think they were friends. I think that this was beyond just a boss-employee relationship. So I think that complicated things. But go ahead. It was definitely more than Lindy, to your point, though. It was not. Lindy was not. If you put in Stan Bowman on this team, I don't know if they're. I don't think they're missing the playoffs, but I don't think they're the Rangers.
You mean Scotty Bowman?
Scotty Bowman, sorry.
Yeah,
Isn't Stan Bowman a thing? Who's Stan Bowman?
That's his son.
Somebody?
That's his son.
Okay, sorry. Scotty Bowman.
And he got kicked out of the league practically. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My fault. I definitely meant Scotty Bowman.
Yeah. I was kind of confused there for a sec. But I mean, I'm usually the oddball with the oddball opinions, so But look, the problem was more than Lindy, but everybody liked to blame Lindy. I'm talking a lot of fans did. I think there's just too much emphasis on analytics, and the Devils are getting burnt right now on it. This team, I was surprised. We can transition in the line brawl. I was surprised this team even had it in them to even do that. I find them to be soft up until game time. I was like, yeah, okay. Those two fight, get it over with, and then the game would start. I didn't think it would involve Marino, Ball, and Tierney and the rest.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for a sec?
Well, we are talking about it. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to, because I do want to put a pin in this because I want to talk about this. We know that John Marino's hurt.
Yep.
He's playing very hurt right now. Why would you put him in that position? Travis Green has to know better. He has to know that it could descend into chaos. Say all you want that this isn't what we planned, but there's a very real possibility that this was. First of all, they definitely planned for Curtis Lazar to go first to get Matt Rempe out of the game. That was just too calculated. And somebody put it on Twitter. I forget who it was, but and the more I think about it, that seems calculated. Curtis Lazar dropped the gloves the second the puck hit the ice, and McDermott took a step back or skated back. They wanted McDermott to fall on the sword and get Rempe kicked out of the game just because they don't want their guys to get hurt.
I disagree.
I
disagree.
What?
Because
Why?
based on the interviews, the guys didn't even know the rule.
I feel like that they lied with the media a lot just because
It could be. It could be.
I heard the same thing that John Hines knew the rule that he wouldn't get any points if he pulled the goalie in overtime and they scored on him.
Yeah.
And I think he knows it now, but I don't think he did the first time. And I think now he's just he's doing a bit. You remember John Hines as head coach. He used to do these bits where he play with the media, and then it would backfire. And we'd be like, what are you doing? Be a coach. Anyway, whatever. The Hines thing is insane to me. But
I mean, you could be right, but I honestly believe half of the players didn't know about that rule.
Because you don't want to think
they're all
never
bunched.
Gonna want.
They're already in the penalty box. They're all getting all I don't think anybody knew, to be honest.
Maybe. I just don't. I don't think a player would ever say, "I'm willing to get kicked out of a game," publicly. They'll say it privately, but I just don't think. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think Lazar just got over anxious and wanted to get things going. I don't know.
Right.
Because
but
go ahead. Sorry, I'm just.
No, you're fine. I mean, I'm just looking at the standings again. I'm just sick. You blow a 2-0 lead to the Senators. You blow a 3-1 lead to a team that they win 7 in a row against Pittsburgh or something crazy, and you blow a 3-1 lead to them. A team you're fighting for positioning with, and then against your rival. Here, this is why I'm mad. You got season swept by the Rangers. They won every game against you. And what's sick is you had a chance to win 3 of those 4 games. And you lost all 3 because you don't got something in you. Well, I don't care. Do we want to be like the kids and say they don't got that dog in them? Do kids even say that anymore? Or is that a millennial thing? I don't even know. I don't care. I look at this team, and I don't even want to say soft because the system is soft. And I've been saying that all year. The system is soft, and it's telling them to be soft. But now I look at the composition of this defense because I'm going to write about this, Sam. I'm going to write about Tom Fitzgerald says he needs more grit. And I wrote about, all right, great, but when you go into it with that mindset, you become the Maple Leafs and you mess up. The Maple Leafs have added all these great guys, Giordano, Ryan Reeves this year, Wayne Simmons, and they haven't worked. You add these great guys and it doesn't work. But you got to be smart about it. You got to have the right grit guy. Curtis Lazar is the type of player that you want. That is the type of grit guy you want. You want, and he's tried this. He added Palat for experience and grit. Like, he didn't add Palat because he thought he was going to score 30 goals again. He had Palat because he thought he had something left in the tank. And, say what it is. He doesn't. And you got him for 3 more years. So now you're going to sit here and, I think it's interesting that it's starting to go better for the Leafs. Maybe there's just something wrong there because Bertuzzi has been better, and Domi has been fine. He hasn't been that good, but Bertuzzi's been much better. So maybe, I just don't think the Devils have the type of team where you can just take the foot off the gas. Like, you got to be going all year. And they've shown that, right? They put themselves in a hole, and they have never this year been able to dig themselves out of it because they just don't believe that they can. From game 1, Sam, when they lost, do you know where the season really, truly went to hell? Game 2, when Arizona punched them in the mouth, they never recovered. They've had spurts where they look like they covered, but they've never won 3 games in a row, or more than 3 games in a row. They've never been able to go on a streak. They've never been able to avoid that big turtle in those big games. Have they been season swept by Carolina? I know they have 1 more game against them, but they haven't beaten Carolina either this year, right?
No.
The 2 teams you play in the playoffs, the one you're trying to get revenge on, and you got you can't get up for that game. You can't get up for that Rangers game after half your team just got kicked out of the game while the Rangers are just murder stomping you.
Nick, I got to stop you there. They had a 3-2 lead. A stick broke. Then it was 3-3. I don't think it was all that bad last night.
I guess I'm looking at the concoction that was last week. Because you had that Penguins game where you just turtled in the 3rd period. You let up 5 goals and scored none and just didn't really try much. And that was a little bit on Jake Allen. Jake Allen did not have a good 3rd period. Mm-hmm. But he's been so good for you the rest of this time, I'm not going to really put much on him. And that Senators game was pathetic. Truly. You can't do that against that team. They put nothing on that goalie, and those goalies have been terrible this year. And so when I look at that...
And Buffalo. Don't forget about
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Buffalo game was terrible too. You're looking at these. I think I'm mixing up the Ottawa game and the Buffalo game. The Buffalo game.
That's why I'm confused at times.
Sorry. Yeah. It's the wrong non-contending Eastern Conference team. That's right there with the Devils at the bottom of the standings. Mm-hmm. They did lose to Ottawa a couple weeks ago though, so I think that's why my brain's just. You come into this game holding on to the lowest playoff hopes, but still a little hope. Whether you're a fan or whether you're a player, and to just... I get a stick broke, Sam, but that first period is where you buried yourself. You came back, you took a lead, but you got 4 shots. 4 shots in the first period after the line brawl. 4. And
honestly, Nick, I attribute that you've got a veteran, experienced team in the New York Rangers versus still a relatively young team.
Are they relatively young? I get Hughes is relatively young, but Heischer's 25.
Heischer's that
these
old
guys
now?
are starting. Yeah, I think Bratt is around the same age. Meyer is 26 or 27, maybe even older.
That's still pretty relatively young compared to the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Isn't the average Devils age 4th youngest, 5th youngest in the league?
I don't know where they are now, but you also remember that you got Simone Nemetz and Luke Hughes pulling that number down, and that's true. They're on the ice. You got to account for them. I get it, but and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that the broken stick and. Even with the broken stick, Kokkonen probably should have got that.
Yeah,
right?
he should have gotten that.
You want him to get that.
Actually, Luke Hughes, when he skated back in that kind of situation, he actually did all he could.
He played well. No stick, right?
After playing 30 minutes and just actually having the speed to get back and at least put a body on him without a stick,
Yeah, I don't blame Hughes. Can we talk about Luke Hughes for a second?
Sure, he's my favorite Hughes brother right now.
I just don't think the season's as bad as people say. I don't think he's like a rookie of the year candidate or like up there with like who's the guy from Minnesota that's playing really well? Brock Faber. I'm not saying he's that. I'm not saying he's everything we thought he was going to be and more. The turnovers are bad, but he reminds me of like prime Damon Severson, and he's a rookie. Right? This is what we saw at a prime Damon Severson was a lot of mistakes, but the totality of it always made up for it. And I don't know if Luke does that yet, if the totality makes up for it, but it's close, right? Like, I think he does about as much good as bad on the ice. It's just like when you're a defenseman like that and you're making those kinds of plays, like the bad just sticks out. He like how many assists does he have? He's over 30, right?
Yeah.
So like, this isn't a bad player. This isn't a guy I'm at all worried about coming into next year. And again, my track record is not great right now because a lot of my predictions went in the toilet, but I think a lot of Devils fans are in the same position. But 9 goals, 34 assists, 43 points on a team with a dog power play. Dog. And I've made the point about like a lot of people are like, well, the power play would be fine with Dougie Hamilton. I don't know if that's true. I think what I'm trying to rectify is that Dougie Hamilton did not account for most of the power play goals this year before he got hurt. He was on the second unit, and he was the reason why the second unit was decent. He was still on the second unit, and the first unit was scoring, I think, like 70 to 75% of the power play goals before he got hurt. Dougie was a big part of those goals when they went in the second unit. I think they scored like 9 when he was there, and I think he had like eight points, something crazy. So, he definitely. I will say this: Dougie Hamilton would be on power play 1 right now if he was here. He's not, so you're kind of stuck with Luke Hughes. That's stuck. I mean, Hughes is playing the power play. I don't like. I don't like how he's been on the power play. But everything else, like his 5v5 play is fine. I think it's fine. Like, I'm not like superly impressed, but his breakout ability, his speed, like he's got Niedermeyer level speed, and I just didn't think that was going to happen again, especially for the Devils. And he's done so much well. And there's so much to build off of. You keep putting him with Brendan Smith, which is just not a good combination. Like, I'm with a lot of people where I would rather have Santeri Hataka in the lineup than Smith. But they like Smith, so Smith is going in the lineup. I'm just over that argument. Not worth it. Playing him on his offhand is just, I don't get it. Like, what are you trying to do here? Playing a guy who's probably your 7th defenseman off position. When you got DeSimone, you got some good, some players who've shown you something, and then you want to see if they're going to be a part of the future. It just tells me that, listen, I'm going to tell you this, Sam. I think they're going to re-sign Smith. I absolutely think they're going to re-sign him.
I think they will. And but be honest with you, I don't have a problem with that.
He's been not good. Eye test, the statistics, the advanced.
He scored last night.
He did. I think he's great for the locker room. If you can make him a coach, I'd hire him today. I think he's such a smart hockey player. If you took his hockey IQ and put it in Alexander Holtz, you'd have like a Gretzky level guy because Smith is incredibly intelligent, but his skill set does not allow him to get to the places he needs to get to.
Yeah.
And it causes him to overcompensate, and it leads to high danger chances. So, it's, again, I think Smith is great for the locker room. I think Smith is a fantastic leader, a great veteran to have around. His play has not been up to where it needs to be, but they're going to re-sign him anyway. I'm just kind of reserved to it. And Devil's Twitter is going to explode.
Nick,
Devil's Facebook, Devil's Instagram, Devil's TikTok, Devil's Truth Social, Devil's pages, Devil's threads, all of them.
Nick, I want to ask you a question. Get your memory. Do you remember Scott Niedermayer's rookie year?
What was it, 92? 93?
Yeah, I remember it very, very well. Do you remember it?
I mean, I've researched it, so it's hard to like remember what I remember as a kid and what is just stuff I've done so much research on the Devils over the years.
All right, so let me tell you the difference between Scott Niedermayer and Luke Hughes. The talent, the skating, it's all there. The hockey IQ, all there. The biggest difference between Luke Hughes' development and Scott Niedermayer's development, other than I think Scott came from Kamloops and obviously Luke came from University of Michigan. The Scott and Scott, the two Scott, the great Scott pairing, Stevens and Niedermayer. Having Scott Stevens nurture and be around Scott Niedermayer. Well, and they kind of, I wouldn't say comparatively to Luke Hughes, they eased Scott Niedermayer in. Whereas Luke Hughes just like, go out there, Luke, show us what you got. And it's a big difference between the two because I remember, a 19-year-old, I think he was 19 years old, Scott Niedermayer paired up with Scott Stevens, the great Scott pairing. And, you're looking at Luke Hughes, I mean, they put him out there in so many critical situations. And, again, I'm just, I'm just comparing the two. And right now, Travis Green should not be the coach next season.
Yeah.
Travis Green is an extension of Lindy Ruff, and it's sort of an evaluation period. I think Travis Green, all things considering, has done a great job, but he's not the guy that's going to get it done. All right, let's just be honest.
Why do you think he's done a great job?
Because, and what I mean by great job is not so much. He's working with what he has right now.
Can I bring up a stat to you?
Oh, I don't want don't because I hate analytics. I'm done with it.
This is standing points. Do you like standing points? Do you like wins and losses? Is that a good enough stat for you?
Just wins.
Okay. How many teams in the NHL have fewer points than the Devils since Travis Green took over?
I don't know.
4. Only 4 teams in this league have done worse in the last month since Travis Green took over as coach. This is a team that wanted to play in the playoffs. One of them is Detroit, but the other two are San Jose and we were tied with Columbus. I forgot the third team, but it was a bad team. Maybe I think it was Anaheim. Team he lost to. So, I'll give you this. I don't think he had a chance to do a good job. Like firing Lindy Ruff when you did it just did a disservice to everybody. Lindy Ruff lost. I don't know if lost the room's the right word, but he could not get the locker room. He could not.
Again, I'm going to say it again because you brought up the Alexander Holtz. Sorry that I'm feisty tonight because I've been pissed off all day.
You're fine.
I've been pissed off all day. Trust me. I tried to keep it clean on air last night, but I'm still pissed off about this whole situation. But you brought about Alexander Holtz.
Your state.
Thank you. You talk about Alexander Holtz. Again, I said this a couple times, and I don't have any information, but I don't think Lindy Ruff had full control of this team. I think upper management had something to do with Alexander Holtz not getting so much playing time. Now we're seeing it again, but this is what Travis.
What would be the point?
You know what? Maybe I'm harping on it, but it's when Tom Fitzgerald said something about Travis Green accepting the interim tag and taking over as coach, that he accepted on the precondition that he has full control of the roster. And that's alarming to me because I would never think in a million years that would be mentioned in a press conference. That's a prerequisite for me to accept this interim job. If I have full control of the roster, why? Did the last coach didn't?
That is such a weird thing to say. First of all, it's a weird thing to put up publicly.
Because the only thing I can conclude, and I could be wrong, but the only thing I can conclude is the analytics team and people, looking at numbers are calling the shots.
So do you think this is like the Yankees where like a guy with a computer calls Boone and then Boone makes a decision based on what the guy called him?
Is that what the Yankees do? Because I read a whole thing about
that's what the word is on the street, I'm sure.
Yeah, I read a couple articles about the New York Mets, what Steve Cohen's trying to do, with that analytics. And I'm telling you, and I read Jay Fresh's tweet earlier, and
former friend of the podcast.
What's that?
Former friend of the podcast.
Former?
Well, we haven't had him on in a while. But.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was bad blood. I was like, former? What are you talking about?
No.
Once a friend, always a friend, Nick. Jeez.
Listen. It's like
I'm on edge right now.
Yeah. It's like when I say former second-round pick. It's like, well, he didn't get taken a different round. He's still a second-round pick, but that's the lingo, I guess.
Yeah. So, about last night's fight, okay? Mm-hmm. Number one, you should never take the emotion out of the game because the reason why we love hockey is because of the emotion, right? It's because it's a great game. I know a lot of fans out there, especially the younger generation, they love the stats. They love using that as a reference to what they're seeing or what they're concluding, or sometimes they use the stats to make their whatever. To each their own on their opinion. I don't agree with half of this stuff. But to call last night kind of a sideshow, look, I don't like staged fighting, but this was because they didn't allow McDermott and Rempe to fight. But apparently, according to Rempe, that he had orders, like he had instructions from Laviolette not to do certain things or whatever. If you go with their BS, their BS press conferences or whatever, were carefully scripted, is what I would like to say. And where am I going with this? I truly believe that the McDermott and the Rempe was already planned by both teams.
Right.
The other shenanigans, I think that was in the moment. I don't think that was staged. I don't think any of the players even knew what they were doing.
Even though the Lazar one started before the Rempe McDermott one.
Well, I think Lazar knew what he was doing, but I'm talking about specifically Marino and Ball. I don't think any of these guys know the unwritten code to this kind of stuff. I think they were just part of the moment. They had a great time. It was awesome, and I think the fans all liked it. I don't know why, again, back in the old days, it was ridiculously, some of this stuff was staged. It was just it was a little bit over the top. And even today, back in the day, Mike Milbury was jumping in the stands, pulling the guy's shoe off, a fan's shoe off, and hitting him with it. That stuff, can't happen in today's world. But I was okay with yesterday. And you know what? I think the maturity of the New Jersey Devils and this young team took one step in the right direction. They had each other's back, the teammates' back. Because oftentimes we see somebody deck Nico Hischier and no response. The goalie gets run into, no response. It's starting to kind of get better. And, again, and the other thing, too, which I got to look at the replay because I saw it different. I think I saw it on Molly Walker's Twitter account, her camera view. And I was specifically looking at John Marino and Miller's fight. Now, a lot of people on Twitter were saying that that Miller won the fight. John Marino was in the wrong. I don't even know. But what I saw was, and again, maybe I looked at it wrong, but everybody's opinion on it is completely different from mine. But what I saw was when Miller slipped, in terms of fighting etiquette, Marino didn't punch him when he was down on the ice.
Mm.
And then when I saw Miller get up, then they fought, all that kind of stuff. When Marino fell, Miller finished him off while he was down on the ice in a vulnerable position. Saw the same thing happen with Curtis McDermott in another fight, random fight this year, where his opponent fell, he immediately stopped, waited for him to get up, and then started punching him in the face when he was ready. Again, I'm not saying the Rangers are dirty or whatever. I just don't think, again, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I thought it was good. I thought it was good, but with Marino with his upper body injury, I don't know if he should be fighting.
That was the one that I don't like. Why is he out there? You know what I mean? Like, put Smith out there. That's what you have Smith for, right? Smith has fought. Put Smith in ball, and you lose somebody who's playing the left and somebody who's playing the right. And then, I think you got Lazard and Tierney, and, you got the right guys out there. And then obviously McDermott. The Marino thing is just, like, it's just a mismanagement, in my opinion, to put him out there. But, I mean, it's like such a small potatoes thing, so I guess, whatever.
Well,
but
it is only because he didn't get hurt. If he got hurt, then we'd be talking about it like, what are you doing, Green? You're not even a real head coach.
Yeah, like,
anyway.
imagine if he, like, tore a ligament in his thumb or something, or, like, whatever. Yeah. Like, imagine he has to get, it's something to think about. What if we hear that he has to get surgery in the offseason? It's like, did it get worse in the fight? Did it, it's like, and like, I think that? No, but it begets the question. And I just think this team at every turn, to make this team miss the playoffs, Sam, by this margin, do you know the microcosm of bad management and bad luck that needed to come together? Like, think about how much has gone wrong for this team that was outside of their control, relatively. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talk about the injuries, you talk about McLeod, you talk about just gelling, and you talk about putting in a new system that, like, makes sense on paper but just does not work. You talk about the goaltending, like, all these things that kind of out of your control, right?
Well, that's why. That's why. Again, I'll harp on again. Things on paper, stats, analytics, all that. You got to equate. It should be 50-50. The analytics is 50. The human element is the other 50. The judgment calls. There are judgment calls all the time where you go against the analytics. And also Nintendo Wii. Thank you for the super chat. I can't believe we just let Brunette walk. It happened. What were you going to do?
They were never going to fire Ruff. I think
there's no way you can. There's no way you can.
What I think happened is I think they did offer him a legacy job in scouting. And you know what? You want to keep coaching. So you can't fire him. You can't. Like, there's a couple reasons why. A, he did a good job last year. Like, you can't deny that. I've heard a lot of people say they won in spite of Ruff. The Ruff system was a big reason why they won and went on that 11-game winning streak, and, like, people were adjusting to it all year. Ruff was late to adjustments, but he beat the Rangers in the first round. Like, last season was a massive success. I do think they wanted to, but the problem is that with my timeline in my head, Brunette was already in Nashville. So even if they offered him that job and they were trying to work that out, trying to see what comes next, because it doesn't make a lot of sense that it took until, September to come to an agreement on a contract? I just think they were trying to see the path forward. And I think, from everything that we've heard, is that Lindy Ruff got a 1-year deal with an option. And I don't, they might have to buy out that option, whatever, so great. Like, I think really Lindy Ruff got a little bit more than what, I know, but he didn't get anywhere near, what Babcock gets when he gets fired. I don't know if he got fired for cause, but I'm trying to what Gallant got when he got fired, or these normal regular firings. By the way, I'm gonna point to we're coming close to the end. I don't think Laviolette. He's been this is his 7th job, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Every single time, his best season, except for the Ducks, because I think they won the Cup in the second time, or whatever. Like every single time, his team is great the first year and then gets progressively worse. It happened with the Capitals, it happened with the Hurricanes, it happened with the Flyers.
Yep.
They are great that first year and get progressively worse.
And I don't think they're that great, the New York Rangers.
I mean, on paper they are.
I don't think they're good. I mean, they barely beat a 1-seed goalie last night, and a team that's not very good.
Right. But on paper, they have more points than any other team in the league.
Well, yeah. Again, that's on paper.
So I'm just right. That's what I'm trying to say about these Laviolette teams. They have these fugazi ways of winning that don't work in the playoffs always. Most of the time. Like when was Laviolette's Cup? Was it like 2007?
Was it 06? With
something like that. Like it's almost 20 years ago now. Do I think Laviolette's a good coach? Like you can convince me he's a top 15 coach, but it happened at every spot. I knew the Rangers were going to be good this year because of Laviolette and the track record that he had. I just thought the Devils were
he's kind of a hothead, Laviolette. I mean, Green trolled him.
He was yelling at Green.
Green trolled him. I mean, that's great.
I give you vibes of 20. What was it? What was the year that DeBoer and
2012?
Tortorella? It was 2012. That was hilarious. I was getting those vibes.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, it was, in 2012 it was Pierre Maguire that was in between them, and then it was Darren Pang that was in between them last night.
And here's the deal.
Steve Engel, that was Barry Trotz. That wasn't Laviolette that won the Cup with the Capitals. I think he won it with the Carolina Hurricanes
I didn't
in
say
06.
I didn't say the Capitals. I think I was talking about the Ducks.
No, I'm talking to Steve Engel. He's asking questions. But Nate, Nate with another super chat, he says, on terms of coaching candidates, where are you guys on Todd Nelson? He's my dark horse candidate for our new head coach, given his history.
Todd Nelson. So, Sam, I'm gonna reveal something.
What?
I have next week. There will be 3 articles with 15 coaches that I'm going to analyze.
Oh wow, that's great.
One of them is Todd Nelson.
Okay.
So I don't want to give an opinion because I haven't done the research because I have 15 guys I had to go through. But it's going to be broken down into 3 different segments. One is going to be guys who are available today, right? They've already been fired or whatever the case may be. And for the most part, they're guys with previous coaching experience. There's going to be 5 coaches to watch, which is the Mike Sullivan type. I'll give you another teaser. And then there's going to be 5 first-time head coaches to target. Todd Nelson's on that list.
For me, it's Bruce. There it is.
He's just I have him on the list just because you said him. I wanted to put him on there just to, and Ryan Novoselsky, friend of the podcast, did a story on him, talked to him, which I thought was ironic. You brought it up, and then
I brought it up 2 months ago when Lindy got fired, but the stipulation is
he would have been fun to take over this team in December. I would have been all for that.
Yeah. I want to be chanting Bruce. There it is when Nico Hischier scores a hat trick or something like that. But my stipulation is you got to bring Scott Stevens back.
So would Scott Stevens be like the coach in waiting? Is that like
no, not the coach in waiting as an assistant coach, because I'm telling you, when you bring Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson, he played for those guys as a New Jersey Devil. He's got the respect in the locker room, Scott Stevens. He doesn't have to say much, but he's also a good teacher. And they had success with the Minnesota Wild that one season. Those two were paired up together, right? And it seems so right. but I just don't think. I think bridges may have been burnt when it was Lou, Scott Stevens, and Adam Oates behind the bench, and then it all blew up with when Ray Shero came along.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from with that part. They weren't that good with those three behind the bench. Because remember, like, Oates was a guy who wanted to be.
Let's put it this way. When Michael Ryder was on payroll, I don't think it was a good team to begin with.
I thought I liked the Michael Ryder signing. Maybe I'm just not good at hockey.
You got to stay away from those analytics, Nick. I'm telling you. It's a drug. It's a drug.
And I'm not, like, you talk about me like I'm like a guy who only looks at numbers. Like, I'm not, like, I look at numbers. I look at the game.
Actually, like, that is true, Nick. I'm only busting chops.
Say, the numbers back up what I'm saying, right? And then I write about it when it does. Like, I'm always analyzing.
That is true.
I try to look at, like, counting numbers. I don't go into XG. That very rarely gets into my articles because I can't explain it. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't, like, explain it to you and you make it make sense to you.
What the goals expected?
I'm going to put it in my article. Yeah. Like, how does that happen? Like, how do you understand? And I get it. It's positioning. It's shot type. It's the goalie. It's, like, all these other factors. But it never equates right? But, like, something like high danger chances versus regular chances, I can quantify that.
Let me explain something. This is my theory on it. And I think you would respect my theory on this. A lot of the Devils let's make an assumption that my conspiracy theory is the Devils analytics people have a huge influence on what goes on in the roster, the coaching, the player development, player movements, whatever. Just make an assumption that the number crunchers are running the team collectively. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we bitch about the Devils, especially on defense, that are not making the simple plays. They're turning the puck over. They're doing all the things wrong when they could just chip the puck along the boards to get it out of the zone. Do you know that works against all the analytics when you make the right play? Puck management, puck possession, it's considered a turnover.
No, it's not.
No, of course it is.
No, that doesn't count against a giveaway or a takeaway.
No, not that stat, but other stats.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe their whole. You asked the question one time, and I was trying to think. Yeah, why is this year's team, the blue line, the defensemen are holding on the puck instead of that crisp pass, breakout pass? They're holding on. Are they trying to amp up their numbers for puck possession, puck management? I don't know.
It's got to be taught. It's got to be taught.
If it's taught, why is it taught? Is it because the analytics are teaching this?
Probably.
Yeah,
it's a mistake. And I'll tell you when the analytics don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think they looked at the analytics so hard, and that's why they go for this poke check offense or poke check defense.
Yeah.
To prioritize possession, because the analytics say to prioritize possession, and Lindy Ruff's system thrives on possession. But it's not equating for when you miss. Right? It's not equating for when you poke check and now you're out of position. Yes, a poke check is not going to put you as out of position as a hit and a miss, but you have a much higher success rate on a hit attempt than you do on a poke check attempt. Do you agree with that? At least like a body attempt, like to put a body on a guy. Like, not even like, I feel like you more often at least clip the guy than when you poke check and you just it's either you hit or you miss on a poke check.
I really should work this summer because we're going to have a long summer. My beefalytics analytics, which is really a mockery of the analytics. It's kind of like, there's IQ when they do an IQ test, but now there's an EQ test. That EQ test is actually more accurate determining somebody's value in terms of if they're going to get results.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what, Sam. And I kind of did a reset this past month. People have noticed that we haven't had as many guests over the past couple of weeks. And that's by nature. Hey, this one's on a Thursday. I usually try not, when we're on weird days, I try to kind of like just let it flow because things could come up and, whatever. We had the Rangers game yesterday. But it's because I feel like and for those who don't know, like Sam gets guests for the other shows and I get guests for this show. For the most part, Sam has gotten guests before, but, I'd say it's probably about 80-20 for this specific show.
No, it's really 95 you, 5% me.
It's either way. I feel like I've gotten away from getting some of those cool guests, like agents, and, we've gotten designers, we've gotten marketers, we got Eddie Lack, like things like that. Like I want to try to kind of change what kind of positioning we're going to do. And this summer, I think is a good reset for that. Because I want to do that again. I want to talk to these people who aren't just analyzing the New Jersey Devils on the ice. I want to see like what is the entirety of this game? And I think why now is the right time to do that again is because this team is kind of in this weird period where it has to decide what it is. Are you actually a Stanley Cup contender? And that depends on a lot of different factors. And we want to kind of get the totality of those factors. Like, I want you to be able to just look at our podcast from June to early September and be able to put together a full circle of kind of like how to build a great team. So coaches, players, agents, marketers, everything. I want to put everything together. So that's kind of an inside look at my headspace right now. Because I wanted to kind of see, like, what do we want of this? Like, do I want people to keep telling me the Devils stink? You know what I mean? Does our fans want that? I don't know. I don't think so. So taking a step back, figuring out how to make the State of the Fan Address the most must-see or must-listen-to podcast on the internet. And I think that's going to get us back to where we need to be, Sam.
On that note, Nick, I've gotten some PMs and people saying that people like it when I'm negative. I don't know. I'm a pretty positive guy, but every once in a while I do get negative. I was having negative thoughts all day, actually, Nick.
Vinny's been one of the more positive people about the Devils for years, ever since he started working for me. And people, like, attack him for it. And, like, it's just the way it is.
That's
the negative
society.
fan is always louder.
That's our society.
The negative fan is always louder. Sam, do you know what the worst part about the season is? This negative fan thinks they're right. Like, see, I was right along. They're, like, thriving off of that.
There was one time, Nick, probably about 10 years ago, I used to post positive quotes on my Facebook account or Twitter account. Like, positive quotes like, from, I don't know, some famous person like Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. or something like that. And one time, I posted a couple of quotes and I posted a Kenny Chesney song, whatever, trying to be positive. And I had a lot of people that were concerned about me asking if I was okay, if there's something wrong going on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Having a beer in Mexico? Like they saw me put all these quotes for about a month or two straight. And look, you know what? It's okay to be positive, and it's okay to tell how it is. Michael Descallis says he loves it when I'm fired up. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people do because I go crazy over stupid things. Stupid people makes me stupid.
As long as we didn't get our content stolen by any Rangers podcast this week.
Oh, you said the C word. Oh, that's the worst.
I did?
Yeah. stole our C word.
Oh.
You should have said stole our live video feed and did not have.
You're
express
hating
written
this word, Sam, because I talk to as a communications professional. There's only like so many words I could use to like. I talk to $1 million executives every day. Like, do you know I have a finite amount of words to make things make sense to them? So I use that C word probably 40 times a day.
It is a
Because,
buzzword.
like,
It is a buzzword in that industry. Yes.
it's like I just have to like tell you everything in totality. Like, do we want to make a video? Do you want to write a note? Do you want to talk to a journalist? Do you want to like how do I put that in totality? And that's the only word that like makes sense for them.
Well,
So I get it. I get where you're coming from.
but do you know why I actually hate that word?
You've told me before, but it's,
Yeah, I'll tell it because Max is saying the word, whatever. There are people out there, and I'm not going to name names, that say that they would meet me and they would say, you do a podcast, right? It's like, yeah, whatever. Well, I'm a content creator too. And it's like, huh? And then a lot of marketing executives want to be marketing executives. There are marketing executives that know what they're doing. And then the other marketing executives want to be marketing executives. They freaking use that word like 70 times in a sentence. And it's like, yeah, we produce great content. Great content. It's like, no, your stuff sucks. But I can't say it because I got to be as phony as you. So that's where that's coming from. So I just want to just let people know because people think, why don't you like the C word? It's like, well, I don't like the C word because it's kind of like the word lifestyle. Just take out the style. All you need is life. I like to keep my words simple. That's all. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that.
that's all I got. I'm ready for plugs when you are.
All right. Hey, this is a great podcast, Nick. I didn't know what we were talking about because I was so depressed. I thought I was just going to keep my mouth shut, angry the entire time.
Hey, listen, I could pull you out of anything, Sam. But right now on pucksandpitchforks.com, it's not all negative. Right now we got. So I wrote about the line brawl last night.
Yep.
Nick Natali wrote about
Good
Craig
article.
Berube.
Good article. Good article. No, both you and Nick Natali. I did read both.
Yeah, so he gave a pretty stunning case because I don't like Berube, but he kind of made me think like, all right, I'm not going to hate it if they hire Berube. Luke Garrison wrote about Luke Hughes. Are the criticisms of him in his rookie year valid? David Holliday just kind of recapped the New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, and what he actually liked seeing that. Trey Matthews got some quotes from Cam Jansen and talked about what Matt Rempe can learn from Cam, the former Devils enforcer. And I wrote about kind of these third quarter collapses, how they're really hurting Travis Green's chance to take over as head coach. Juliana Long wrote about Alexander Holtz and why his future is still not clear despite his bigger role. This is obviously like a couple days ago. And then Marcy Rubin wrote about how the latest missed opportunity is the epitome of an uninspired season. That's a headline, Sam, right there. But some stuff's going to be coming out from me. I have a really interesting one that I'm really excited to write about. I feel like the timing's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Did you know that the New Jersey Devils franchise was supposed to get Wayne Gretzky?
Whoa! Are you
I'm
talking
gonna
about
write
in the
about
mid-'90s? Back in the mid-'90s?
I'm not going to reveal it, Sam.
Okay. You and I should
I don't
talk
want
off
people
air
like-
because I actually heard something from a plumber one time about
Okay.
Wayne Gretzky coming to New Jersey.
I think it's different than that.
Okay.
But
All right.
anyway, so I'm going to write about why the Devils missed out on Wayne Gretzky, how he ended up on the Oilers, the shystiness that happened around that, and why it might have led to the New Jersey Devils never existing.
Interesting.
So there's a lot there, but so
Plus
that'll
some
be coming out probably the weekend. I am going to WrestleMania this weekend, so I'm pretty busy. But I'll try to find some time to throw that up on pucksandpitchforks.com, and then I'll be writing the coach stuff, and I'll also be writing. I'm going to try to get this up next week. The 5 scariest stats that define this season. And then I want to write an article about 5 forwards the Devils should add that bring smart grit. Tom Fitzgerald, I think it was last week or the week before, said he wanted to get gritty players, but you can't just add the Ryan Reeves. You got to have people who fit the system, fit what you're trying to do. Get more Curtis Lazar types, and we're going to look at who those Curtis Lazar types are. I have so many articles in the chamber. Just go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Every day we have new content, new articles.
Nice save there. You almost blew it.
The
puck was hovering over that line before I almost had to kill you. Running with the Devils says missing the playoffs is never a blessing. I completely agree with him. But here's my segue and my plug. On the Woo Report, I'm going to talk about what Matt Rempe did may have done the New Jersey Devils organization a favor. Because everybody needs an enemy, and enemies brings a whole family and team together, doesn't it?
Rempe's going to be in the AHL next year, but that's fine.
Yeah, I know. But you never know. Who knows?
That Hartford-Utica rivalry is going to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rempe, if he could develop his other parts of his game and all that, he could be the next Tom Wilson. Who knows? But wouldn't it be funny if the Capitals make it to the playoffs and they play the New York Rangers in the first round and Tom Wilson, too, destroys that team, which would be very, very funny to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's how I feel. And I want to thank all those tuning in. Remember, go to pucksandpitchforks.com. I got called out for not reading some of these articles, but I actually did read 2 today.
You did?
Yeah, they were very good. Love the Berube article. He's one of my favorites. I just don't think the Devils are going to hire him for whatever reason. But
analytics probably.
Well, amongst others. I'll talk to you off air about that. But yeah, exactly. It's not. He wouldn't fit the Devil, the Harris Blitzer sports entertainment mode, the mantra. But you know what? You never know. You never know if anybody thinks outside the box.
Can I say one quick thing before we go, and then because we do have to go. But the only thing giving hope to what you're saying is that they hired Dan Quinn in Washington, because that's not like an analytics based hire. Football is different than hockey, but same ownership group. So,
Dan Quinn?
Who knows? Isn't that who they hired in Washington? The Washington Commanders.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm thinking Capitals. I'm like, what are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get you on the same page.
Yeah.
Josh Harris's football team hired Dan Quinn as a surprise hire.
But also the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator said they don't even know what the heck they're doing.
It's fair.
Yeah.
He didn't go anywhere, though. So, what is he saying? I don't know. Anyway, never mind. End the podcast. We're going off the air. We're going off the rails and off the air.
Well, maybe it's David Blitzer. Maybe David Blitzer is running the Devils while Joshy Boy is doing the Commanders. And the 76ers.
I was going to say the 76ers are just floundering on their own.
Oh, yeah. That's another. Oh, I could go on and on and on and on. I'm sure Harris and Blitzer don't like me. Or maybe they don't even know who we are. They're like, yeah, they're just stupid paying customers. We'll laugh all the way to the bank. Want to thank all those tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. pucksandpitchforks.com. Go there, be square. Till next time, let's go Devils.